Welcome, future Polytechnic students. My name is Cathy Pullings, and I am the Recruitment and Diversity Coordinator for the Polytechnic. Thank you for joining our discussion and what it means to be a minority at Purdue, as well as within the Polytechnic. We want to hear from you tonight. We want your questions. We want you to think about what it means with the life of being at Purdue and within the Polytechnic as a minority student, both inside the classroom and outside the classroom. But first, Cyndi Lynch, I'd like to introduce her as the Associate Director for Retention and Diversity, and she will go over the logistic details. Cyndi.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. I have a few logistics I want to go over with you. I will be responding to your questions that you post in the chat session. So please be sure and post those questions in there. I will also be posting those to our panelists this evening. So use that chat function heavily and post all your questions there, and we will answer them this evening. So back to you, Cathy, with introductions of our panelists.
Thank you. Once again, we want to hear from you. We have on the panelists, we have newly graduate students, as well as our current students. And we have a special guest who is an alumni, a Purdue alumni from the Polytechnic. So I will start with you, Marcus. Marcus, please tell us your name, your major. Actually, Marcus, you are one of our newest graduates, so congratulations, and where you're from.
Thank you, Cathy. Back when I was a Purdue student about a week ago, I was a cybersecurity major with a minor in management. I just completed my senior year, obviously, and I'm from a small town south of Chicago called Flossmoor.
Thank you, Marcus, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Erin?
Hi, my name is Erin. I'm also a recent graduate. I just finished my senior year of construction management with a minor in organizational leadership and sustainable environments, and I'm from Lawrence, Indiana.
Krista.
Okay. Hi, I'm Krista Serratos. I'm going to be a senior this upcoming semester, double majoring in mechanical engineering technology, as well as automation and systems integration engineering technology. And I'm from Hammond, Indiana, which is Northwest Indiana.
Okay. Erin, I wanted to tell you congratulations too. And then Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam Fowler. I just finished my freshman year and I am from Huntingtown, Maryland, which is about 30 minutes from DC.
Okay. And our special guest, who is an alumni from Purdue Polytechnic. I want him to introduce himself, tell when he graduated, what was his major, and actually what he's doing with his major. Mel Drake.
All right, thanks for the intro. So my name is Mel Drake King. I am a graduate of the Industrial Engineering Technology. I graduated in 2016, and I currently reside in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I work for General Mills. And so I have been with General Mills for about 4 years, ever since I graduated.
All right.
And my current role is a supply planner, and so I schedule and plan capacity, long-term capacity for our Totino's line.
All right, thank you, Mel Drake. We'll have questions for you later on in our broadcast. Let's get started. The first question, actually, Sam, you just finished your freshman year. So what would you recommend from the audience as they transition from being a high school student to being a freshman in college?
I'd have to say for the number one recommendation, you definitely have to do your homework. I know it's easier to skate by in high school, but you really have to do your work here. Another top recommendation I would have is like, don't bring your whole house with you. There's not as much room for everything as you think, and you'll just feel really cluttered if you bring everything with you. And I wouldn't bring all your winter clothes immediately. I did that, and I ended up not needing them because it was really hot at the beginning of the fall semester. But definitely have your boots ready for like after Thanksgiving break.
Okay. All right. Marcus, Erin, Marcus, you want to chime in?
Sure. So yeah, back in my summer before my freshman year, I did the STEM academic boot camp, and I think the main takeaway from that was that like I got to take classes over the summer, which really prepared me for my freshman year because, in my opinion, setting up a really strong foundation for your GPA your freshman year is really important to make it easier throughout your later years when it's going to be more difficult. So that when you have a higher GPA, like when you have like a harder class, maybe your junior or senior, it doesn't affect you as much.
Okay. Any other panelists want to respond?
Sure. One thing that I had my freshman year was a mentor. She was a graduating senior, and I actually was connected with her before I started. So I was able to ask her all of my questions. So some of the things that Sam mentioned, like not bringing your entire house. I'm a shoe fanatic, so for me, I had to pick and choose what shoes to bring, and that was hard. But I'm glad I didn't bring all of them because I didn't have space, and I learned about some of the helpful programs that we had on campus through her. So I definitely recommend finding a mentor or somebody who's a little bit older at Purdue to help you get through some of those questions that you might not even know you have.
So Erin, how did you connect with your mentor?
So my mentor was through Emerging Leaders and Boiler Mentor. So I was asked shortly after I received my acceptance into Purdue if I would like a mentor. And I agreed to have a mentor because my older brother said that it was going to be pretty helpful, and I'm really glad that I did. But Boiler Mentors is a cool program as well that Polytechnic offers.
Okay. Krista, what surprised you with the transition from high school to college? And was there something that you would have known ahead of time that you wish you would have, gotten information about, or, it was something that was missing? So talk about that.
Um, I would say what surprised me most about transitioning is like how close of a community it was within like the Polytechnic, and like I guess like also for all other schools within Purdue. Like when I thought like coming to college, I thought like I would be mostly like on my own, doing my work like just on my own and very individual stuff. But like when I got to my classes, I realized that like majority of the students like in my first semester, like first year, would be people that I would be going with all through college. So it made it really easy to like make friends and make some good connections while you're like in classes, and it makes it a lot easier when going through these classes. And like sometimes you'll be in a harder course where other people may find it easier and you couldn't always work together, and it's really good teamwork. It's really good teamwork skills. So that really surprised me going in. I didn't think it would be anything like that, but I'm really glad it was because it did help me a lot throughout the 3 years that I've been in school. Um, as far as like what I would do different, I think um maybe just getting out there a little more. My freshman year I was very shy and like timid with talking to people, but as I grew to love Purdue more and become more comfortable with like the people I know and my surroundings and environment, it got a lot easier to talk to people and make even more connections. But I do wish that like coming in, I would have been a little more open to talking to more people because I've really met a lot of great people and made so many great connections. But yeah.
Okay. Sam, what about you? Considering that you just finished your freshman year. So what about you, Sam?
I agree with a lot with what Krista said. I did shy probably too much, but yeah, it definitely helps to talk to people. Everyone here is so, like really nice, very approachable. So like I wouldn't really be scared to talk to anyone, because no one's really going to scoff at you for being a freshman or anything. Like they're all willing to help you if you can't find a building, and no one really judges you for using Google Maps as much as you might think they will. So like it's a very welcoming community, and so it was a pretty nice transition here.
Okay. Erin, Marcus, you have anything to add?
I'm gonna have to agree with the whole shyness thing. I feel like I wasted a lot of time early on in freshman year, going from that transition from me being pretty shy in high school to like that shyness in my freshman year. I mean, over time it kind of sheds off, but I feel like I could have met even more people if I didn't start off being shy. I feel like I could have had like just a really like I guess a bigger community within my dorm and in my classes if I just went out of my way to just talk to people.
And what did you do differently to get out of your shyness, to be able to meet other people, be able to meet people in your dorm? How did you do that?
Sure. So over the 4 years, you're gonna find out that like you meet just a lot of new people. So I guess just over time, like going through that whole process of meeting more and more new people, like you just get kind of just more and more comfortable with just meeting people who are coming from completely different situations from you. Like in your internships, you're gonna meet a lot of new people. In your like whatever clubs, whatever maybe intramural sports you do, you just end up meeting so many new people that you kind of just get better at it.
Okay. All right. Erin?
So I feel like I was the opposite of the shyness. I joined everything that I had an interest in, and that's what I regret because in high school I was in a ton of stuff just because I like to do everything. But I had to study when I got to college, not I didn't study really when I was in high school. So that was something that was different for me. So I had to make studying an activity instead of just like not doing it. So I had to unjoin a lot of clubs and learn like what I was really interested and passionate about. And so I met tons of people with doing that as well.
So how did you know going into that? So how did you know that you needed to study more? How did you know that, considering that, you felt like you didn't have to study in high school as you do in college, but how did you know that you needed to study more?
So my freshman year, I actually codoed into construction management because I started out in construction engineering management. But I had an internship before I started my freshman year, and I learned about Polytechnic in that program. So I switched over because it was more of what I was wanting to do. So because I switched after the STAR registration date, I was in a lot of 300 and 400 level classes. And so when I got to my econ class and he was talking and everybody else was like, oh, yeah, I understand. I was like, wow, I don't know what you're talking about. So I had a lot of things that I had to study. So just realizing like what we're tested over and knowing that everything connects to everything, like all the tests and things build upon each other. That's what helped me realize I had to study and I couldn't just figure it out by taking the exam because some of the things that we had weren't multiple choice, so I had to like know what it was asking me.
Okay. Um, Sam, what about you? Did you have that adjustment to where you knew you had to study more?
Actually, yes. I was also one of those people who just didn't study in high school, didn't really do my homework. You definitely have to. They if you go to class, like they'll teach you a lot, but you do have to look over the material more often, or else you'll be very confused when you go to the tests. But yeah, studying definitely did have to make its way into my schedule.
Okay. Um, I talking, Aaron, you talking about you had to learn, you and Sam had to learn about, studying in college versus in high school. And Erin, you lead it into that, but I want to go back and talk about, Erin first, because Erin, I think you're the closest in terms of, you are from Lawrence, Indiana. And, you're the closest, I would say, with going home, that opportunity to go home. But talk about how often did you go home? How did you make that, and I don't want to say separation, but just talk about, how much, how often did you call home? How often did you go home, since you are the closest from our panel? You are probably the closest person that could have that opportunity to go home.
So I'm pretty close to my mom and my siblings. So I actually have like a siblings group chat and we talk all the time and every day. And I talk to my mom every day. But I did that um, before I left school, before I left for school. But I only went home on major breaks. So I didn't go home for like Labor Day or the Memorial Day. I don't think we were in school for that, but like those singular days. I didn't go home for the 3-day weekends because it was just not, I don't want to say not worth it. I mean, I love my family, but going home, like I had to mentally prepare to go home and I had to prepare with my workload to make sure that I did everything that I needed to do before the next school day, because when you go home, it's just nothing gets done. Like I got no work done. So I only went home for really major breaks or like my birthday. But that was really it.
Okay. We have a question already. Cyndi, do you want to ask that question?
You can go right ahead, Cathy.
Okay. The question is, does everyone get a mentor? Is it automatic? Also, is there any good Latin food in West Lafayette? So does everyone get a mentor? So Erin, you mentioned that you got a mentor. Did anybody else have a mentor coming in? Sam?
Yeah, I actually did have a mentor from the same program. I'm in the Emergent Leaders program as well. So I got a boiler mentor. I know everyone from my program has to have one, like they automatically get assigned one, but people can also sign up to have a boiler mentor if they're outside of the program.
Okay. Krista, do you have a mentor?
I did not have a mentor. There was a time where I had one for maybe about 2 weeks, but I wasn't able to stay in the program just because of like time conflicts. But it was with Witty Sisters. Um, so if you don't have like a mentor through like one of those programs, like from Purdue, that you could go through the Women in Technology program and get a mentor through that as well.
Okay. Marcus, what about you?
So I guess I didn't really have like a mentor from a formal mentorship, but I actually worked really closely with the TAs for my classes. Because for my senior year, two of my TAs were both PhD students, so I worked closely with them in and out of classes, just kind of learning whatever information I can. Because with them being in the PhD program, they were super passionate about everything related to IT and cybersecurity. So I was able to get a lot of information from them when I'm working on projects, as well as like just general career information and really anything.
Okay. And just for our viewers, what is a TA? I know what it is, but just tell, because these are high school students
Yeah,
and soon to
yeah.
be incoming freshmen. So just what's a TA?
So TA is the teacher's assistant. Sometimes they'll be the ones who teach classes themselves. Sometimes they'll just be the ones who grade work for classes. They'll lead labs. Basically, they're the people who are like just a step below the professor, like when you're looking for things related to the course. But they're all really useful, and they're all students, and they're really friendly for the most part.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. And then who knows where some good Latin food in West Lafayette is? Krista?
Yeah. Okay. So there are a few places. One that I really liked, I think it's called Taco Rico, but they have some really good food there. And there are definitely a couple other places like around the area, but that's probably one of my main ones. And there is one that I forgot what it's called, but they have dollar tacos on Tuesday. So there are some options, maybe not a whole lot, but there are some really good options around the area. And they're also like family owned and like so that's really nice to get from them too.
Okay. Anyone else? Because that was a two-part question. So anyone else know where some good Latin food is?
I know of a good place, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head.
So can you guys talk about just the food in general here on campus, both within the residence hall, the dining courts, as well as around campus?
Sure. So for the dining halls, I'm sure everybody has their own opinions on how much they like some of the food from the dining courts. I feel like for most people, you're just gonna find like the dining court that's consistently serves the food that you like the most, and kind of like end up going to that dining court or like whatever other one the most, and whatever dining courts you don't like, you're just probably never gonna go to. I know personally for me, I was in Meredith my freshman year, so that was like right in the middle of all the dining courts. So I got to experiment a lot, and then my sophomore and junior year, I actually lived in Hawkins, which was on the other side of campus from all the dining courts. So if I was going to go to one, I made sure it was one I actually liked. Oh, but because it was across campus, it was right across the street from the Purdue Memorial Union, whereas another place you can spend dining dollars because it has, I forget all the names of places. Like I think it's Villa and forgetting the names of the restaurants now, but there's options for you to spend dining dollars at.
Marcus, can you talk about what dining dollars are?
Sure, right. So dining dollars are like a kind of currency that's provided to you at the beginning of each semester. I think it's like 125 or whatever, depending on like whatever plan that you choose. And you can spend those dining dollars at the stores within the union, as well as some of like there's like these little kind of like grocery mart places that are scattered around campus. Like one in the Tarkington dorm. I think it's called Tarkmart, as well as you have like little restaurants in Harrison, because that's the Harrison Grill, and then in Cary where you have like the Cary Night Spot. Just like a few food places where you can spend your dining dollars at.
Okay. Let's go back and talk about resources that are available. So we talked about, some of you realized that being a freshman where you didn't have to study in high school, but you realized that you had to start studying in college. And so we talked about TAs, we talked about finding mentors, but where, study groups. Talk about study groups. What worked for you? What didn't work for you? We're talking about in Polytechnic hands-on experience, a lot of group projects. So talk about your experiences of those group projects and, those studying places, especially like on, every night or even on, some of you didn't always, partied on Friday. You first studied first and then decided to party later. So just talk about that. Marcus, you started laughing. So
Yeah, I mean, I probably wasn't as dedicated to the whole party after, or what's it called, study beforehand. Because I like to, I guess, work hard, play hard, and I worked hard as I could Monday through Wednesday, and then I guess someday as well. But I'd like to block off my time on, what was it, Thursdays, Fridays, and sometimes Saturdays, just to keep myself motivated and things like that. but I definitely did study hard. I remember it was in my sophomore year. I thought it was hard for me staying up until 2 a.m. and like working on projects like that, not knowing that that was just going to be a regular thing for me my senior and junior year, where I'd be staying up all night working on projects. So you kind of just get used to it. But it was definitely a big transition from high school for me, where like I maybe had to study for my physics class, and that's about it.
Erin?
Um, I was not like a big partier. I like hanging out with small groups of people, and I worked a lot. I had a couple part-time jobs while I was in school. So for me, I don't study well in groups. So what I typically did, I would work through the material and practice it on my own. And then when I got with groups, I would teach them. So that was how I studied. So once I was able to teach people the material, then I felt good. Did that answer all the questions you asked?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with the same thing. Whereas, like, I personally studied a lot better when I was just by myself, and like, what I would like to do is like, with my friends, is I'd quiz them over material beforehand, because like while they're answering the questions, I'm kind of like testing my own, like how much I actually know it.
So was there any specific place on campus that you was your favorite to go and, study, whether you were with a group or by yourself? Did you guys have a favorite? Because I get mixed reviews about going back to your dorm, because that's not always good to go back to your dorm. Because you may get lazy and tend to want to lay down. And so where did you study on campus?
For me, I'd say like my freshman year is like when I kind of branched out the most, because like that's when I actually had like somebody living in my room with me, so I didn't want to be the guy who sits around in his room, and because everybody kind of wants their own personal space. So that kind of forced me to go and study in places like Hissy Library and also like occasionally Hicks. But once I got my own single, I found that I would bounce between either studying in the lab or in my dorm. I feel like sometimes when you're studying by yourself in your dorm, you're more likely to get distracted and just, I don't know, go on, do random things and watch YouTube or sometimes Netflix. But when I'm in public, I'm less likely to just, well, sometimes less likely to go on Netflix or YouTube. But yeah.
Sam?
I actually ended up studying in my dorm or my dorm lounge a lot. Mostly, I don't know, I just can't focus when I'm out in public and around a lot of people. But I do know there's one room in Bulk I tried one time. That's active learning center. And quiet. I think it was the most quiet room I've ever been in my life. I forgot exactly what the room was called, but like, if someone does want to go to study, it's definitely quiet, and there's really nothing that will break your focus there. So that was sometimes a nice calming room to be in if you actually needed quiet.
Okay. Krista?
Yeah. For me, I could never study at home. Like I would go home and I would automatically like go to sleep or just go on my phone. So it never worked for me. So I'd always go to like the library, or a lot of the times I know sophomore year when I had a really heavy school load, I would go to the Shreve lab. So that was just like where the computer lab was in one of the dorm halls, and I really liked it there because there was a lot of computers like in a row, and it was really quiet most of the time. And then I'd also go with friends, and we'd work on a lot of projects there together. But I also like Shreve because like if you're also in Calc 2 or like any math type course, there is this particular room you can go to, and there's like a set of people in there that will help you like with your homework and like any assignments. So it was really good, like a good resource for that, because I definitely used that room a lot for calculus too, because I was struggling with that one. That one was really hard transferring from high school. to college like right away. So that was one of my favorite spots. I also like Walk and there's Croc, which is also one of like the buildings on campus that you can go to. It's open for anybody. So those are really good places.
Okay, let's hear from Mel Drake because we've been talking to our newly graduates and are still current students. So Mel Drake, you want to chime in and talk about anything that we have been talking about? So, how was it for you? Where did you find where you could study on campus or, did you always study with a group?
hmm No, I do want to start off by saying it. I was smiling. You probably see me smiling, but I do appreciate all the stories that did bring back a lot of just flashbacks and late nights of studying with friends. So definitely appreciate the stories and what I've been hearing. Um, on campus, so about 4 years ago, I did go to libraries, and I started to study with maybe one or two people, but if you asked me to study with a big group, that most likely wouldn't work out. And that's part of just knowing myself. Pretty social, pretty talkative. So if you put me in a room with more than three people, we probably wouldn't be productive at all. And so um, just studying, by myself or with one or two people, definitely was my preference when I was in college. Places to study. Um, as I got older and I got a little more disciplined, I did start to study more in my dorm. Um, I always didn't have a lot of time to really go to, different places to really study, and so the easiest place sometimes was my dorm. But I also went to a library, so Hissy Library and uh, all the other popular libraries on campus to study and get away when I needed to really focus.
So in hindsight, did you study right away?
Uh,
Or were there different ways that you could have studied now that you know that it would have made you better? So, did you immediately study right away?
mhm. Yeah, so I would say my freshman and sophomore year, um, just I did study right away when I was this is my younger college career, um, and that was really just because I was just focused on just getting good grades and really doing the best that I can on exams. And so my reasoning behind that was the freshest that I knew the information, and that I just reviewed it um, from a class standpoint was really how I was going to retain the information. And so I did study right away most of the time. As I got a little older, that time became farther and farther away from kind of when I did learn it. But I think you just have to learn how you learn and kind of what works best for you. I don't want to say there's an exact kind of formula to kind of what works, but you have 4 years to really get a chance to like learn yourself and learn what works for you. And so I would just advise to try different options. Try studying with a group of people, or try studying to learn. Try studying by yourself and see how that works. And if it doesn't work, try something else.
So
Kathy?
this is for all of you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Cindy.
So I have a couple questions here and for the panelists about studying and uh, I think there's a couple of different parts of studying. The part where you learn it yourself and then working in groups and things, and it all kind of plays into learning the material. But one of the questions from our participants is, um, how do you get to be social? How do you learn? So how do you learn about your professors and the TA? So basically, when you go to office hours, what should you be doing would be one thing. And studying by ourselves, most of us do that, but did you ever do any group work or group studying types of things? Any panelists want to take that?
I could take that question actually. A lot of the office hours, I know professors actually appreciate it a lot. If you're coming in to ask about homework, if you have difficulty with that, they like to see that you put some effort first forward. They want to see that you tried to do it before coming in to ask them, because they're not really going to want to help if you didn't try and just want them to do it for you. So they're always going to want to see some effort on your half. And if you have issues like understanding something they discussed in lecture, you could always go in and ask about that, and they'd be more than happy to explain it to you one-on-one. So related to office hours, like just showing a little bit of effort really goes a long way with professors, and like they're always happy to talk, even if you and talk to you if you have any trouble with just anything on campus as well, which can be really nice sometimes because they're always willing to get to know you.
Yeah, and I'm like to add to that, like with office hours, it definitely is good to go because you know, it really does show like the professor that you care about their class. Like I remember one time I stopped by a professor's office to like just ask a simple question, but we ended up talking for like an hour, and I gained like so much information from that hour just about the class and like things I needed to do and needed to get done, and it was right near finals, so it was really helpful when it came to the final. But also what I like to do is sometimes if I do have little questions, I can just go up to the professor like right after class. There's usually like a 10-minute like window before the next classes begin, so you can just quickly ask them, and that also gives them a chance to kind of get to know you a little better too. So it is just a little bit of like communicating between you and the professor. It does help. It goes a long way.
Are any of your professors mentors, or someone that you could consider being a mentor?
At least for me, I think there are a few professors that I've kind of gotten a little close with. Um, they're just more particularly the ones that I've had like repeatedly. So like I'll have like the first course and then the second course with them. So those are definitely people that I would always go to and ask questions and really get information from. You do become a little close with your professors because you do see them all the time, and even like just being like in the Kanoi office and just around the building, like I get to see professors and I say hi to them like and wave. So um I get to like know you. But I would definitely, if I had like a problem, I would consider them, I guess, mentors in that kind of way, and I can always go to them.
Erin, what about you?
I had pretty good relationships with all of my professors. I mentioned earlier that I'm pretty ambitious, so I was in quite a heavy course load almost all of my semesters at Purdue. And then I also worked part time as well. So I often could not go to office hours because I either had another class or I had work or I was just busy. So I would make a lot of appointments. I communicated a lot through email. I'm sure that they were very tired of me in their inbox, but that was just how I got my questions through because I couldn't go to office hours. So um, as Sam and Krista were saying, those relationships with your professors are very important. I remember my sophomore year, um, one of my classes, I had like I was like point O2 away from an A, and I went to talk to my professor, and she went back through with me on one of my exams, ended up giving me some points back. But another student who didn't really go talk to her ever, she wasn't willing to do that with. So I know that's like a really specific and unique situation, but those relationships can really mean a lot later because professors just want to know that you are interested in what they have to say. Another thing that's different is um, although the professors are very helpful and everything, it's not their job to make sure that you're class and doing what you're supposed to do. So you need to take that effort upon yourself. So it's not like in high school where, I mean, some classes do take attendance, but they're not going to email you and ask you why you didn't come to class. It's your responsibility to come to class. So just having those relationships and showing the professor that their class is important, because it's their time too that they're giving to give you the information. So it counts for sure.
Very helpful to know that. That's great, Erin. Very helpful to know that. Anyone else want to comment? So let's talk about, oh, sorry. Cyndi, were you going to say something?
After we have another question from the participant,
Okay.
and it's about the transition to online learning. Do any of our participants want to talk about that? It was a pretty new experience for everyone, and some uncertainty about what we're going to do yet this fall. But anybody want to comment on that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, this transition definitely took a lot of getting used to for not only students but the professors as well. There's a lot of communication that had to go on between both sides to really get it to flow smoothly. I guess one recommendation I would have is that like making sure that like if you do have to do online learning is that like you stay really like focused on your work, like trying to make sure that you have a schedule so that you're not like laying around all day and then by the time like it hits around like midnight and you have to turn in everything, that you like still have enough time to do anything. You want to make sure that you're being attentive in whatever lectures you have to attend. You want to make sure that you're actually studying because like I said, when you're by yourself, like things can kind of slip away from you. But yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about activities
Kathy,
on
can I ask
campus.
one more question?
Oh, yep, we sure can. Yes.
So there's times that you will have to miss class, you might be sick or something. How do you figure out or find out from the professors or someone what you missed? Now, and I bring this up because a couple of times, I have taught classes, and one of the things that I found really irritating as a professor is when a student said, I couldn't make class on Tuesday. Did you talk about anything important? And so no, we didn't talk about anything important in class on Tuesday. I just wanted to waste everybody's time. So it's not uncommon to have finding out the information that you missed and handling that responsibility.
I have something kind of important. I thought about that. I found it very important to find a lot of people like in your class the first few weeks. So like if you do end up missing class, that you can get the information from a student, but also to email the professor, especially like it like there are some professors who have like attendance policies. So I know one professor in my fall semester, um, you had to email him, I guess, 10 or 30 minutes before the class you were going to be sick or going to be out. I know I made this mistake once and I didn't email him and I missed a pop quiz. So it's definitely important to email the professor, especially if they have an attendance policy like that. And it's a lot easier to get the information as well if you have friends in the class who showed up or not, of course. um,
Meldre, did you ever had to miss a class?
Sorry, I was trying to find a mute button. I did have to miss class a couple of times, and I tried to be as proactive as possible. So, uh, trying to communicate to the professor if I knew I was going to miss it, and then if I needed to go to office hours or something, the following week, I did that.
Okay. That's good to know. I would, the key is communication. Making sure whether it's a requirement or it's not a requirement, whether it's in the syllabus or not. I think the key is to be able to communicate to your professor and let you know, because, each professor knows that their class is important. And, if you're sick, whatever reason, that you need to miss class, reach out, email. They may respond, they may not respond, but at least they will know. And I would say most of the time, professors, if you're sick, they'll work with you and, tell you to show up to office hours, or, the TAs, but I think it is good to just keep that communication open.
Kathy, I have another question for Mel Drake.
Sure.
So Mel Drake, how much of this food did you get to sample at General Mills?
Did you say food? I got the sample. That what you said?
That's what she said.
Oh, okay. I got to sample a lot of food. I would say if you're looking for a favorite food location at Purdue, I don't know if it's still there, but it's Happy China. So it's a Chinese place near the levee. So Chinese food is my favorite food, and that was my favorite place to go to. But I did get a chance to try a lot of food at Purdue.
But what about General Mills? Did you get a chance to sample the General Mills product?
Oh, General Mills. Oh, yeah. So I work with Totino's, and so I get a chance to test, stuff that we have in the works, and then we don't get free food, but we do have a company store at our corporate headquarters, and so I do have easy access to just every General Mills product.
Anyone else want to talk about their favorite place on campus to go and eat?
For me, because I had like the meal swipes last year, and oh my god, I would always go to Flatbreads, and it's a sandwich place like in the Union, but that was one of my favorite places. Like I love their sandwiches; they were so good. But that's that's one of my top favorite places to go to on campus for food.
I don't know. I mean, for me, like, if you're willing to like walk the distance off campus, there's this place called Brew Burger, which is right across the bridge in downtown Lafayette. They have by far the best burger I've ever had, and then also like maybe not as far as Silver Dipper. They have really good ice cream, and then if you're feeling basic like I usually am, Chipotle also does the trick.
So my favorite place, it was also a little bit off campus, but not too far from Chipotle, where you can get better food, better burritos, Fiesta. Literally down the road from Chipotle. Their tortillas are homemade.
Yeah, I remember eating at Fiesta. They have a enchilada style burrito, and it's pretty good.
All right, I'm watching my time here. Let's
I
get
have one more
into,
question.
oh, sure, yes.
Panelists. Are any of our panelists currently, oh, let me turn down mine. Panelists, first generation students? And if you are, did you use any of the first gen resources on campus?
No one was a first generation student?
Okay, Okay, then, well, I can answer this a little bit. We do have an office specifically focused on first-generation students, as well as a number of different programs, and I will send that information out through the chat and an email to you if you wish. And we do have a couple of students, not on the panelists tonight, but have served, have worked with us in the Polytechnic that I can get you in touch with, and they can talk about their experiences as a first student on campus too.
Okay, can I go to activities and organizations, student organizations? All right. So let's talk about student organizations on campus and talk about which ones you were involved in. What was the benefit for you connecting to those student organizations? So Marcus, you want to go first?
Sure. So on campus, I was the treasurer for the Minority and Technology Association, and along with Krista, who was also a member. I think it was really important because it's a minority recruitment as well as just minority support program on campus. They provided a lot of activities, a lot of meetups for people within the Polytechnic to kind of create a greater community, as well as recruit high school students and show what Purdue has to offer. Being a treasurer, it gave me the opportunity to work with some of like, I guess, the number side. Along with my cybersecurity major, I was a minor in management, so I got to use some of the things I learned as a treasurer with my minor in management, which was pretty cool. Uh, Krista, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I can add in a little bit with MTA. So yeah, for MTA, I was the social media chair. So with that, I did a lot of like the advertising for our general meetings and any like events that we were doing. I got to make some good connections with that too. Like I got to meet a lot of the people who were like in the club, and I was also just a general member my freshman and sophomore year. So I met a lot of different um like people in different majors that you may not be able to like associate with just like within your own major. So it was good connections that way. I was also in Women in Technology, which is very similar to Minority Technology Association, but this one is more geared towards aiding women in women in technology. And with that one, I also got to meet a lot of great people in the Polytechnic. I did not hold any positions within WIT, but I was a part of that one, I believe, my sophomore, and I also started trying to go my junior year as well. I wasn't in that as much freshman year, but I wish I would have joined. That's also something that I wish I would have done. I think another thing I wanted to call to touch on is the culture centers that I was like really involved with too. I'm really involved in the Latino Cultural Center on campus, and it's just another great resource to meet people and just kind of branch out with connections. Um, and then there are a ton of different culture centers. I know there's one Native American Culture Center, there's the Asian Culture Center, there's one for well, I can't name them all right now, but there's a good amount of them.
LBT,
Yeah, that one. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. LGBTQ one.
LBTQ, yeah.
hmm
And then there's the Black Cultural Center.
hmm Yeah, they're like kind of spread out. So those three are kind of the three I mentioned are like in a little spot, but they have a really good big Black Culture Center. Like on the main strip of campus, and then the LGBTQ one is in one of the buildings on campus as well. So they're very easy to access because they're so close to campus. But within that, I also joined a sorority, so like I did want to mention that. So that also brought a lot of good connections. I met a ton of people through that, and it was really nice. And it also kind of like made me like had a deeper connection with like my culture because it is a Latina based or a historically Latina sorority. So it's really nice to have those type of resources.
And I can jump in here. So when I was a student at Purdue, I was pretty involved, but the biggest organization that took a lot of my time, a good time, was MTA. And so I started as a general member, and then I went into the social chair, and then eventual treasurer, and then I was the president my senior year. And so with that, it taught me a lot of just soft skills. And so we all know that you're at college to learn and you learn about your major, but I would say just joining extracurricular organizations definitely show you the soft skills that companies are looking for. You know, how to lead a team, how to be in charge of a budget, those type of things that really make your resume stand out. And I would say if you have the opportunity to be involved with the organization your entire college career and you're able to progress within positions, I think that looks really good on your resume as well because companies they're looking for longevity, you know. So if you show that you've been a part of the same organization and you were able to progress up to positions, that really looks good from a resume standpoint.
Thank you. Anyone else? Erin, I know you talked about your jobs. Sam?
I'm not in like any of those like big party programs or anything. But I did join a Grand Prix racing team, which is a really fun thing to do on the side. So like there are a lot of fun clubs to join that just not relate to your major or any kind of like skills that you would use towards your future career, but are still a pretty productive use of time because I it's something I genuinely enjoy. Sometimes just a nice stress reliever from studying, just like go to a club that's fun and you can meet people outside of your major, even outside of like your school.
Cyndi, do we have another question from our?
We do.
Okay.
One of the questions is, how do you balance you know, whether it's jobs or even finding time to wind down and take care of yourself, um, along with classes and studying and all that?
I can talk a little bit about that because as I was pretty busy. For me, I use my assignment notebook very, very well, and then I had a calendar on my phone. So I blocked out times for everything. I even blocked out times for relaxing. I blocked out time for homework. I blocked out time for studying. Um, and block out time for sleeping. But you'll learn to operate on small amounts of sleep and naps and things like that. But just making sure that you actually block out time for things instead of stressing about them later. And so I know how much time I have to hang out, how much time I have to like relax and watch TV, and then knowing when I need to do my homework as well helped me a lot. Because if I didn't, then I would forget something. So if it wasn't in my calendar or my assignment notebook, it wasn't happening. It didn't exist. That was how I worked.
Sam, you're smiling.
I was just laughing because when she was talking about the assignment notebook, I used one of those the first half of my fall semester and it didn't work out very well. I was bad at blocking out time before I started using assignment notebook. And when she said having small amounts of sleep, that hit very close to home. It was just, yes, you definitely do have to block out time or else you will not get a lot of sleep. And it's just, you can actually plan what you're doing ahead and like actually know what you need to get done by what times and try not to do that like at 11:30 p.m.
Okay. So Meldre, what advice do you have for either high school students or our current Polytechnic students to be successful in college and afterwards?
Yeah, so I would say the first advice that I would give is find a mentor. And so uh, a couple people mentioned the importance of a mentor, but you'll notice that if you find yourself talking to a person a lot about, just advice and, career um, choices that you will make, they are important just to your growth. And people might have experienced things that you are going through, and they will be able to help you get through that. And so I would say, even if it's someone to talk to, and it doesn't even have to be a mentor, but it could just be someone that you can lean to help out along the way. I definitely would say find that person, and it can be a faculty member, it could be another student, another peer, but definitely find who that person is for you, and definitely use them as a resource. And I would say so. For my example, like Tony Mangia, she was a great mentor to me when I was at Purdue. She still is to this day. And so she helped me get my first internship. She was able to pass my name on to other things that I highly appreciate her for. And so definitely find that person. And I did forget to mention that she can cook, so that's another place that I enjoy to eat when I was on campus. It's Tony's house.
Yeah, if I could add on to that, one of the experiences I had was, after going through one of my interviews after a career fair, the interviewer actually mentioned to me, is like, yeah, I talked to somebody named Tony McGee earlier before the interview, and they said like how great of a person you were and like how experienced you were, and it's just really comforting to have something like that. Like Tony's just a great resource, a great friend, just a great person all around. I guess I worked with her all throughout my 4 years, and I can agree that she is a great cook. Like her end of semester meals are delicious.
And we're talking about that's leading up into internships. So all of you, what internships have you had on campus and how did you get those internships? And I know that it's 6:32, but I think we need to talk about just briefly just the internships that you all have been on, and how did you get those internships?
I guess so I got my internship with Deloitte through the career fair. Actually, I when I had talked to them at the career fair, I hadn't even heard of the company. I was just standing in line with my friend who's like, "Oh, I'm really excited to do this internship." I'm like, "All right, I might as well talk to them." The person at the booth actually really liked me. She's like, "Here, I'll take a copy of your resume." Within that, the next day, they called me. They wanted to talk to me. I got to go through 4 different rounds of interviewing, and it was a really competitive process. But at the end, they pretty much called me immediately, and there's like, "Hey, we want to give you a job for the next summer." So overall, it was a really great experience, and it was nice how streamlined it was.
Erin?
So, I actually did an internship before I started college, and that was a company that I interned with throughout college. So I was connected through them through a program I was in when I was in high school called ACE Mentoring. Um, and that's actually who I'm going to be working with full time once Corona stops playing these games. Yeah, I got my internship through a mentoring program. So it's those mentors.
And then
Mildred?
I can just add that. So my first internship, um, it was through Tony, and so she helped me. Uh, Someone asked her for a recommendation, and she passed on my name, and so that was really able to set me up for future internships and just help me build my resume. And so my my second internship was with Hormel Foods in Minnesota, and so. Uh, with that first internship, that just helped, gain experience and just have something to build off of. So definitely good experience. And then I would say definitely both of the internship experiences helped me land a full time job with General Mills because it showed that I had manufacturing experience as well as food experience with Hormel Foods.
Okay. Sam, you're just finishing up. Do you have an internship for the summer?
I do not for this summer. I'm not sure. Are they doing internships over the summer right now?
I'm not for sure.
But no, I do not have an internship.
And
Yeah,
I
I
would
do.
just add that internships are kind of dependent on your major too. So some of them, as to when you get them, so since Sam just finished up her first year, sometimes they want you to have a couple of years under your belt before you do that. So no worries to panic there. And then also with this pandemic,
And I would just add that I was looking for internships my freshman year, and I was not able to find a formal internship, but I would say still try to think about experiences that could, help grow you professionally. And so when I think about my freshman year, after my freshman year, I was a YMCA camp counselor for the summer. And so um, it was a fun experience, but it helped, just me with general leadership and, working with kids is hard and it's tough, but it definitely helped me professionally as well.
Okay. Mildred, I got a question for you.
Okay.
4 years after graduating, how do you feel about your Purdue degree, and is it still relevant in your line of work?
Yes, it is. And so I study industrial engineering technology. And for those of you who don't know, that is kind of a hybrid between industrial engineering and then supply chain management. And so I did take a lot of supply chain classes, and that is the field that I'm currently in. And so I took a lot of operation management classes and SAP classes, which is a system that I still use today. And so um, I would say it definitely helped me transition into a career. And um, even if I didn't know exactly what I was doing, and it didn't teach me, everything I needed for the job. That's what on-the-job training is for. But it definitely helped get me into a field that I knew I was going to like, um, and it prepped me for my first few years of my career. So I would still say it's relevant.
Okay. Before I wrap up, I would like to ask each of the panelists, um, what advice would you give for for an admitted student who is still trying to make that decision to come to Purdue? Because they have till June 1st. So what advice would you give to a student who's still a minority student? Let me clarify this. A minority student who is still trying to decide if Purdue is really for me. Mildred, you start first.
Alrighty, so I will say that from a minority student, Purdue is definitely a great place to be. When I think about, all the resources that was available for me from a resourcing standpoint, I would definitely say, I did not leave Purdue feeling like, I wasn't supported and I didn't have, enough guidance to get me through the 4 years that I've been at Purdue. And so when I think about all of the clubs and the faculty that were there to support me, I definitely left Purdue feeling like I was a part of a broader family, and that even after I graduated, I had a family and a group that I could always connect back with. And so I would say, Purdue is a great place for just minorities and students in general. And then if you're looking for a place where you can grow professionally as well as just personally, Purdue is the right place for you.
Sam.
So before I even came to the school, like I was very the whole campus is like a family. And at first I was like, "Yeah, okay, like, sure." But they really are. I was very surprised. All the like staff are very personable. They're willing to talk to you. All the students even, like, they're all very nice to each other. And like I've even seen them put on games of glow in the dark, capture the flag together with people. Just everyone's willing to have fun with each other and very accepting of everyone of any kind of background. And it's actually really to see.
Krista.
Okay. Um, I would like to say that there are definitely like a good amount of resources for URM. Um, it was a little challenging for me at first because like I grew up in a very diverse area, so it was kind of a weird transition to Purdue. But you know, I came to love it because of the resources that I had, and um I can even say like the people in the office that I work with. So that's like Miss Cathy and Miss Cyndi and Miss Tony. I work with all of them, and they definitely pushed me to do my best and to really try. And ultimately, it did work because you know I did get an internship this summer, and I really thought I didn't, but I didn't think I would, but you know they pushed me in a good way. So those are definitely good resources, as well as the culture centers, and I think just like the small community and getting to know people, like overall, it's a good environment to be in, and I really appreciate it, and I wouldn't take anything for granted. So.
Erin.
Um, I think the opportunities that are available for you at Purdue are something that I just don't think you can get in many other places. Like I was able to do things at Purdue, like I studied abroad twice, um, and I didn't pay a lot for either. Well, I mean I did, but I didn't pay a lot like for the tuition for either of those because Purdue helps you a lot. They really want you to travel and go places. I've been outside of the country into different places and done things that most of my family hasn't done. So there's just so many opportunities available for you at Purdue and so many things that a lot of URM people, yes, URM don't do in general that you can experience through Purdue. So just learning different things, meeting new people from all over the world. That's just a family that you'll have wherever you go. I mean, even when I was in Australia, I saw some Purdue grads. That was really cool. So we're all over the place, and that's just a really cool thing to have. Even when you leave, it's just a awesome place for some opportunities.
Okay. Marcus.
Sure. So my advice, I guess, when like deciding on the school, what I feel like Purdue provides is that Purdue comes with name recognition. Like companies and people around the world, like they know that people who graduate from Purdue come at a certain level of expertise in whatever they're going to be working on. Another thing is that like you're going to come across a lot of Purdue grads in the workforce, and that, in my opinion, helps you get the advantage and like kind of have a head start on any relationship that you start. Like when I was in my internship with Deloitte last summer, one of the heads of my departments just happened to be a Purdue grad, and she was more than willing to help me and like kind of prepare me with other managers and do more than I guess she would normally do. And then finally, I feel like a lot of the experiences that you can have at Purdue are fantastic. Like I also did a study abroad in Colombia, which is fun. I got to go to all the fun parties, all the different like activities I could do. Just it's a long list of things that I feel like make Purdue really special for me.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everyone from home who submitted the questions for the discussion. And to our great panelists, thank you, thank you, thank you again. You're able to watch this broadcast by following the link that was provided for you. You can watch it again over and over, as well as our other YouTube live broadcast. Please feel free if you think about more questions that maybe we didn't get to tonight, or you think about something tomorrow, please feel free to email us at techrecruit@purdue.edu. Also visit our webpage under the admitted students. There we have lots of resources and a way to connect to us. Once again, thank you all for joining us and have a good night. Boiler up.